Hello, my name is Carl Diaz. I'm a student at Pope John Paul the Great, and I'm reading an excerpt from Barnaby Rudge in which the two characters are discussing horseback riding near a tavern. A strange story, said the man in the cause narration. Stranger still if it comes about as you predict. Is that all? A question so unexpected nettled Sam and Daisy not little, but into relating the story very often and ornamenting, according to the village report, the few flourishes suggested by the various hearers from time to time, he had come by degrees to tell with great effect. And is that all? After the climax was not what he was accustomed to. Is that all? He repeated. Yes, sir, that's all. Enough too, I think. I think so too. My horse, young man, he's but a hack hired from a roadside posting house, but he was carrying me to London tonight. Tonight, said Joe. Tonight, returned the other. What do you stare at? This tavern would seem to be a house of call for all the gaping idlers of the neighbourhood. At this remark, which had evidently had reference to the scrutiny he had undergone, as mentioned in the foregoing chapter, the eyes of John Wood and his friends were diverted with marvellous rapidity to the copper boiler again. Not so with Joe, who, being a meddlesome fellow, returned the stranger's angry glance with a stay look, and rejoined, "It is not a very bold thing to wonder at your going on tonight. Surely you have asked such a harmless question in before, and better weather than this. I thought you might know the way, as you seem strange to this part." "The way," repeated the other, irritably. "Yes, do you know it? I'll find it," replied the man, waving his hand and turning on his heel. "Landlord, take the reckoning here." John Willet did as he was desired, for on that point he was seldom slow, except in the particulars of giving change, and testing the goodness of any piece of coin that was proffered to him, by the application of his teeth or tongue, or some other test, or in doubtful cases, by a long series of tests terminating his rejection. The guest then wrapped his garments about him, so as to shelter himself as effectively as he could from the rough weather, and without any word or sign of farewell betook himself to the stable yard. Here Joe, who had left the room at the conclusion of their short dialogue, was protecting himself and the horse from the rain under the shelter of an old penthouse roof. "He's pretty much of my opinion," said Joe, patting the horse about the neck. "I'll wager that your stopping here tonight would please him better than would please me." "He and I are of different opinions, as we have been once more on our way here," the short reply. "So I was thinking before you came out, for he has felt your spores, poor beast." The stranger adjusted his shoulder collar about his face, and made no answer. "You will know me again," he said, marking the young fellow's earnest gaze, when he had sprung into the saddle. "The man's worth knowing, master, who travels a road he don't know, mounted on a jaded horse, and leaves good quarters to do on such a night as this. You have sharp eyes and a sharp tongue, I find. Both I hope by nature, but the last grows rusty for sometimes want of using." "He was the first less too. Keep the sharpness for your sweethearts, boy," said the man. So saying, he shook his hand away from the bridle, struck him roughly on the head with the butt end of his whip, and galloped away, dashed into the mud and darkness with a headlong speed, which few bally horsemen would have cared to venture, even though they had thoroughly acquainted with the country, and which, to no one knew of the way he rode, was attended every step with great hazard and danger. The roads, even with 12 miles of London, were at that time ill-paved, seldom repaired, and very badly made. The way the rider traversed had been clouded by the wheels of heavy wagons, and rendered rotten by the frosts and thaws of the preceding winter, or possibly of many winters. Great holes and gaps had been worn into the soil, which now, being filled with water from the late rains, were not easily distinguishable even by day. A plunge into any one of them might have brought down a sure-footed horse, and the poor beast now edged forward to the utmost extent of his powers. Sharp flints and stones rode from underneath his hoofs continually. The rider could scarcely see beyond the animal's head, or further than the animal either side his own arm would have extended. At that time, too, all the roads in the neighbourhood of the metropolis were infested by footpads or highwaymen, and it was a night, of all others, in which any evil-disposed person of this class might have pursued some lawful calling with little fear of detection. So the traveller dashed forward at the same reckless pace, regardless alike of the dirt and wet which flew about his head. The profound darkness of the night, and the probability of encountering some desperate characters abroad. Every turn and angle, even where a deviation from the direct course might have least been expected, it could not possibly be seen until he was close upon it. He guided the bridle in an unerring hand, and kept to the middle of the road. Thus he sped onward, raising himself in the stirrups, leaning his body forward until it touches the horse's neck, and flourishing his heavy whip above his head with the fervour of a madman. There are times when, the elements being in unusual commotion, those who are bent on daring enterprises or agitated by great thoughts, whether of good or evil, feel mysterious sympathy with the tumult of nature, and are roused into corresponding violence. In the midst of thunder, lightning, and storm, many tremendous deeds have been committed. Men, self-possessed before, have given a sudden loose to passion they can no longer control. Demons of wrath and despair have striven to emulate those who ride the whirlwind and direct the storm, and man, lashed to madness within the roaring wind and boiling waters, has become from a time as wild and merciless as the elements themselves.
It's 1:45, 1 minute and 48 seconds.
So.